Okay, well, this Jalen Hurts Nick Sirianni drama just won't die. As a new report claims, key executives are disappointed in QB1. And whether you buy that or not, there's definitely no reason to panic. Plus, the Eagles secondary revealed a few wrinkles to challenge opposing quarterbacks, while Gardner Johnson could be playing in the slot. And a free agent target signed with another team, but who's the next best option for Philly? So let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Go ahead and hit that like button and then do me a favor and let's try to remain as calm and civilized as we can despite all this Hurts and Sirianni drama. However, before we get there, let's start with Gardner Johnson sharing a few photos of himself with Cooper DeJean and Kelee Ringo saying, "Coming to a city near you." And I don't know, a long way to go, but don't rule out those dudes starting. After all, Kelee Ringo's looked noticeably different this offseason and was clearly one of the standouts at OTAs. And it's fair to say his versatility bodes well in defensive backs coach Christian Parker's defense.
At the end of the day, you want to get your best 11 on the field. So whatever combination we can put together with guys that understand their job, whether it be a corner to nickel or a nickel to safety or the dime position, what have you, the more guys you know that have an overall knowledge of what we're doing, then the better you can be, because we can change from a package perspective, personnel-wise, down to down, and then we can also kind of move different pieces around based off the opponent we're playing each week.
The idea of moving guys around out of luxury and not because we're scrambling to find anything that works is really a breath of fresh air. I mean, there's only so much you can take. And heck, after last season, like we've said, it can't get much worse. However, not only does having Vic Fangio as the new defensive coordinator help drastically, which I talked about more in another video, but the confusion and illusion of complexity is going to make life much more difficult on opposing QBs.
Yeah, I think me and him see the game very similar, just in terms of limiting explosive plays and having different ways that the defense looks the same, but it can be different. The illusion of being complex, down in and down out. And I think that's something I believe in with him. He allows his coaches to coach. And so, he has a very, he's been a coordinator so long that he has such a good understanding of what he does, and he knows what the offenses are going to do to counter it. And so the year I spent with him in 2021 in Denver, I learned a great deal, and it was important for me to, kind of continue that education for myself.
First off, that's great, but then the question becomes, who are those guys that are going to get rotated in at several of those different positions? And shout out to NBC's Dave Zangaro, who pointed out there's 3 primary guys who look set to be utilized in more than one spot. Like Avonte Maddox, who was lined up in both the nickel position and safety spot during OTAs. And as someone who Christian Parker noted really sees the game well, along with having superior movement skills and coverage. Plus, knowing what's required from the slot has helped Maddox's communication, which Parker especially likes.
Right now, I'm kind of mostly just working on my footwork because it's a little bit different than nickel and safety. You got, and vision-wise, you got a lot more vision in the back end than you are inside with the nickel spot. And, you just got different techniques and footwork you have to use back there at safety than I would use in nickel. So that's kind of been me and my biggest thing. Me and JK been our biggest thing focused on dealing with the safety spot in the back end. But other than that, I'm definitely comfortable. I'm definitely confident. I know all the calls. I know what to do. I know what to say. I know where everybody is at on the field. So, that's the only thing I really need to work on right now.
Naturally, the biggest question is whether or not Avonte can stay healthy. However, if he were to get injured, it sounds like Gardner Johnson could possibly be moved to the slot at times.
He's definitely started a lot of games at multiple spots. He's been able to impact the ball at multiple spots as well. So I think, for CD right now, he's at safety. We know he has the ability to play other positions too. And, kind of as we gradually move forward, we'll kind of figure that out. With the safety position in this defense, it's demanding from a communication standpoint. So really that's the primary job, and then we kind of get to the secondary job after that.
I will say, just because there's talk about a potential move, it's hard for me to envision anything permanent. After all, it's not like we have a ton of depth at safety right now anyway. Although going back to the creating confusion and chaos on opposing quarterback statement, it does allow for more mismatches, which I'm all for, don't get me wrong. However, I'm just a little bit skeptical with some of the injury history. Anyway, how are you guys feeling about all that versatility? Of course, speaking about versatility, there might not be a more versatile player on the defense than Cooper DeJean, with the rookie playing in the slot and even on the outside, as well as being speculated to be a potential fit at the safety position. Oh yeah, not to mention him taking several punt returner reps as well. So it's no surprise that the DB coach said the team's going to continue to add more to his plate as we get into training camp. Again, I don't know of just about anyone who didn't love that pick when the Eagles stole Cooper DeJean. Who doesn't love getting some behind-the-scenes footage? Although one of the best parts might have been getting to see how the enemy feels about Howie Roseman with the Commander's war room.
Howie Roseman.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, I don't want to lose a pick, so just throw me back 161 on what you said, and you're good.
Let me make sure my guy's there. What do you got? I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can we just get the higher pick then? Said no.
Los Angeles Rams have submitted their pick. Washington.
He said, throw me back to 6, then we're good. But
Rams are on the clock.
that's it.
That is it.
Yes!
Florida State, D tackle.
50-53, 161. Otherwise, we'll pick him. No, he tried to say it was 210.
Is he going?
What?
Is he going to do it?
Yeah, I think he's gonna do it. But like, he's like, yeah, okay, let me talk it back. 50-53. I said 161.
Just keep saying they're gonna do it.
Right.
All right, 50-53, 161 for 40, 78, and 150.
Okay. You're a pain in the ass.
I mean, you can't blame the GM for trying to get the best deal. Like, come on, that's exactly how you'd want the Philly legend to be viewed around the league, since you know he's usually 3 steps ahead of everyone else. But apparently that's not the only irritant in the front office. If you believe the Inquirer's Jeff McLane, who reported that according to multiple team sources, Jalen Hurts' handling of the Sirianni question before the team parted for the summer disappointed several key figures within the organization.
Notice about, Nick being open-minded to change up the offense like he has. I mean, what does that say about him?
I mean, it's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to it.
Well, what have you seen? What have you seen from him as far as doing that?
I think he's just, he's been great in, the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional in what he's saying, and yeah.
I don't know, but I'm with those of you that are wondering why this thing keeps coming up. Who knows? Maybe there is something to these reports. Although let's remember what Fletcher Cox's last words were to McLane before retiring.
Come on, man. No, man, he head football coach of this team, man. Come on, man. There ain't even no discussion about that.
Okay, you don't think it's going to happen?
Like, I don't got nothing to say about that, man. You're a clown, bro. Get out of my face, bro.
All right, so maybe not someone to take seriously. However, from a former player's perspective, Hugh Douglas argues it's QB1 who needs to get his act together.
That's not Jalen's call. Now, I understand that he's the face of the franchise and he's the guy that everything goes through. But at the end of the day, the management has to make decisions that they feel are for the betterment of the team, Joe. And if Jalen's not in lockstep with that, then guess what? He needs to get in the lockstep with it, because at the end of the day, if Jalen's not in lockstep, guess who's not going to be here if he's out there beefing with the head coach?
Him. I agree with you on that.
This is not good for the team. This is not good for Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. Because the one thing that you don't want to be in your young career is considered a malcontent. Not saying he's there yet. He has a long way to go to be that. But Jalen needs to make this relationship work. If he's about making the main thing, then damn it, you have to make this relationship work for the betterment of us trying to get to the Super Bowl.
I agree with you.
Look, I've said it before. Are Jalen and Sirianni best friends? Probably not. And do they need to be? No. But I'm still not really worried about it at all. Yet having this news report come out, has it changed your thoughts, your stance on Jalen, or even just the trajectory of the squad as a whole? Personally, for me, it has not. So why don't we show Jalen some support and, I don't know, maybe give away another jersey? Just do me a favor and make sure to hit the like button, and of course, make sure you're already subscribed to the channel, and then venture on down to the comments and type in breed of one, where one person will win a jersey via the randomized comment picker on my next Friday night live stream. Again, just make sure you're subbed to the channel, and you know what? If you have another Jalen jersey and you do win this thing, you want a different one, that's fine. You can pick whatever jersey you want. I know, it's a pretty good deal, just like the Eagles' deal for Jalen Hurts was. And honestly, just keeps getting better after the Jacksonville Jaguars signed Trevor Lawrence to a 5-year deal worth $275 million and $200 million guaranteed, making the once highest paid quarterback in the league for like a week, now at number 6. By the way, Jalen's also an 87 in the latest Madden ratings, just for those that are interested. But back to Lawrence, let me just say, I have no clue what the Jags are doing by paying Lawrence that much. I mean, the dude literally has basically the same resume as Daniel Jones. For real, take a look. In their first 48 starts, the total yards per attempt, total touchdowns, interceptions, fumbles lost, and QB rating are eerily similar.
The price is wrong, bitch.
By the way, that's not a case to say Daniel Jones is underrated. It just speaks to the magic of Howie Roseman and continually being ahead of the curve. However, with all this drama around the Eagles, from tampering to Hurts and Sirianni and other moves, I caught up with Pro Football Network's Anthony DiBona to discuss that and everything else around the Birds. To start out, the most controversial topic, the main topic that continues to be brought up, and we've talked about it several different times, but feels like we have to come on here and at least mention it because Jalen Hurts and the Sirianni drama and everything else. The new report from Jeff McLane claiming or saying that there's key members within the organization disappointed in Jalen Hurts based on his, what he said or maybe what he didn't say in the press conference when asked about Sirianni and the changes and just kind of his impact on the team. Got to know, curious, because, it is the topic and like we've mentioned before, but your thoughts on that, does it give it more legs at all? I mean, with a Jeff McLane report, or what does it mean?
I mean, I said it the last time we talked about it, the last episode I was on here, but it's just the timing was terrible because this is now when nothing else is going on. So, of course, this is going to be dragged on. And I feel like now people are going to be speculating, who are these high-ranking executives or whoever that had the problem with it? So now there's going to be weeks of speculation in that regard. So, I mean, I said the last time that I felt like Jalen Hurts kind of tried to play it as safe as possible where he didn't really give the media much to work with. And, of course, they still took it. I mean, granted, I'm technically a part of the media, but, I mean, some people like to stretch the truth or stretch what's said a little bit more than others. And I just feel like it was a bunch of nothing because I feel like he probably doesn't want to talk about it much because Sirianni's still probably working through the change and everything like that. So I just feel like he kind of just said, like, hey, ask him. I don't really know. Like, that's not really a question for me. But people are saying, that means he hates Sirianni or whatever. But like I said last time, Jalen Hurts isn't going to talk and praise somebody else a ton. He doesn't even really like to praise himself. So he's just a low-key kind of guy, and I feel like he kind of tried to play it safe, but it still ended up backfiring for him because, unfortunately, that's just how the media market goes nowadays.
Like you said, it's something that it's not really in his character to get that, I mean, really that emotional about any sort of praise or a player. Heck, name A.J. Brown, like one of his best friends. He still doesn't really go above and beyond to say, a lot of high praise. He'll say good job, basically, but not much there, and that's fine. But I think that, you made the point last time we were recording also, it's like, are they best friends? Or we at least had this conversation, like, are they best friends? Who knows? It seems like maybe not of Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts being best friends, but they don't need to be best friends. But still, it is, to your point, this time of year, and there's got to be a story, something to talk about. I'd like to maybe shift it. If we're going to talk about Jalen Hurts, how about this? Trevor Lawrence got a massive amount of money, right? So Jacksonville Jaguars pay him 5 years, $275 million, $200 million guaranteed. I'm curious to hear your thoughts overall just on Trevor Lawrence's deal, but then, to continue this with Jalen Hurts, the deal just gets better and better looking for the Eagles, and this continues to be the constant theme. But why is it so great for Philly?
I mean, it's just Howie Roseman doing what he does best once again, because I mentioned it last year when it first happened that he was kind of first to pay the quarterbacks before we knew guys like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and whoever else were going to get paid. And now it's happening once again because now guys like Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence, who you don't really know if they're definitely better than Jalen Hurts. I mean, they've played better here and there, but Jalen Hurts has been an MVP candidate as recently as 1 year ago. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say that they're definitively better than him, but now they make more money than him per year. And now we have guys like Dak Prescott and Jordan Love that are going to be signing contracts here soon. So it was so important for Howie Roseman to kind of get ahead of the quarterback market because it's whoever gets paid the next is the one who's going to get paid most. And it just seems like that's the way it goes at most positions now, including receiver. We've seen it happen, and that's why it was so important for him to get Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown's contracts done. So just Howie Roseman doing what he does once again. And, I mean, it's no better to do it at the quarterback position than anywhere else.
It's funny, too, because staying real quickly on the Trevor Lawrence topic, and I brought this up previously or in the past, but your brother may not care for this too much, but like the Daniel Jones comparisons are actually somewhat striking for a Trevor Lawrence. So maybe this is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know where to take that, but I saw a stat from the 33rd team, at least had the graphic, but it was Trevor Lawrence has essentially the same total yards. They have the same yards per attempt. Total touchdowns, Trevor Lawrence has 66, Daniel Jones has 64, interceptions 35-33, fumbles lost 20-21, and the quarterback rating for Trevor Lawrence is 85.5, while Daniel Jones is 85.4. That's their first 48 starts, comparison, side by side. And Trevor Lawrence just got, a massive amount of money. So is it worth it? I mean, that's just crazy. It's a crazy amount of money.
I mean, I don't know if that says more about the Giants or the Jaguars, but I just feel like nowadays it's just so hard to get like a quarterback that's remotely decent that I feel like teams are just going to pay them no matter what. So, I mean, the same thing with like Jordan Love. Granted, he played out of his mind last season, but I mean, the Packers are going to likely be signing him to a massive extension off of just one full season as a starter, which is kind of what the Giants did with Daniel Jones, but they went with a shorter term contract, which obviously seems like the right decision now. But I just feel like the quarterback market, if they're relatively decent, they're going to get paid $55 million a year, because that's just the NFL market nowadays. It sounds crazy and it's kind of absurd to think about, but that's just the reality of it.
It is insanity. The beauty is, and the part that we can all laugh about, or at least find some I guess comic relief in, or just the fact that they're having to deal with this is Dallas, and like you mentioned, Dak Prescott, because it's the deal that has not been done. I don't know if it's even going to get done at this point, because it feels like you would have taken care of this, especially for a team and an owner saying that they're all in. Now, you could speculate to a million different ends on that one, but still, like Dak Prescott, to your point there, it's like if Trevor Lawrence is making $55 million, he's probably, hey, there's the absolute bare minimum, get $55 million a year. It might be or need to be more than that, because I'm the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, and you just start the negotiation on that side. So it's a positive light for Philly fans, but again, it's a weird situation with Dallas. I've asked you a couple different times, but having been further in this and another quarterback to get an extension done, does it feel like Dallas is going to even get a deal done, or are they just going to say, hey, Dak, you just test this thing out for a year, see where this goes, and we'll figure it out?
I mean, at this point, I honestly think they should just wait, because I mean, it's not like the market's going to get any lower. I feel like now they kind of let these other guys, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, probably Jordan Love, get signed before Dak Prescott. So now the price has already been set. I mean, he's going to beat whatever the highest paid contract is at that time. I just feel like he's kind of earned it. As Eagles fans, they don't want to hear that. They just want to bash him. But I mean, the guy's played really well whenever he's on the field, and it's tough to admit that. But I could also see the Cowboys thinking like, hey, we have maybe going into the final year of both McCarthy and Prescott, and if things don't work out, they can kind of start new in 2025 with a new coach, a new quarterback, to kind of tag them together moving forward. So, but then again, reports came out recently that they're still focused on signing Dak Prescott to an extension and want to get it done before the year. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. In my opinion, I feel like they should kind of prioritize Micah Parsons, because I feel like he's one of the players where they can kind of get ahead of the market. I mean, he's going to be the highest paid defensive player in the league, but it might look like the best deal in a couple of years. Whereas with CeeDee Lamb, we've already seen Justin Jefferson get paid. And like I said, we've seen all these quarterbacks get paid. So I feel like Parsons should be their focus instead of Dak Prescott, but they don't. It seems like they don't know what the hell they want to do this offseason.
They really don't. And I'm sure that they are ticked at Howie Roseman because, like we've been saying, he is the reverse of that. He'll get ahead of the market and he kind of changes the game. And really, he's not a pain in the ass of the Cowboys. It's also the Commanders, right? Like we've heard that comment. It was great behind the scenes let's just say this too. How great is it? It would be awesome if we get extra content, but just the small bits of pieces of information that we get, or the video clips from draft footage, is fantastic. And for anyone who has not seen it, when I say that, the pain in the ass, I'm referring to the Commanders GM, Adam Peters, who is, saying that Howie Roseman, or he's having a conversation with Howie Roseman when they made that trade. And it's phenomenal. Like, I got a kick out of it. I was laughing. You can take it both ways, because I saw some Commanders fans being like, oh yeah, we got the better of Howie Roseman. We made him come down. But at the same time, you reverse that and say, oh, Howie being Howie. But it's great, and it's incredibly quotable. So I'm sure that's going to become a meme or a GIF or something like that if it hasn't already. But how great was that?
Yeah, it was just hilarious, because it was like Howie Roseman was just trying to sneak it in there, because it's at one point, for people that didn't watch it, Adam Peters is kind of asking him to recite what the details of the trade were. Right. And Howie's, instead of including the 210th pick, or instead of including, I think it was 165 or something like that.
Yeah.
161. Howie's like, oh, so it's that 50, 53, and 210, right? So he was trying to just make a last minute switcheroo and kind of catch him off guard. And then if he had him saying yes on the phone, he can kind of just lock it in, okay, you have my word, whatever.
We're done.
But it was just so funny to see him kind of trying. You don't hear Roseman saying it, but you could just tell that Peters was kind of going back and forth. And I guess Washington fans are kind of right in a way, because he didn't back down, and the owner was right there saying that just stay firm and they're going to take it. So, we'll see what happens, but I feel like both teams kind of benefited from the deal. I feel like Washington had a pretty solid draft overall, and the Eagles obviously traded left for Cooper DeJean, who seems like he should be a piece in their secondary for years to come.
For sure, yes. And it wouldn't be surprising either, or I guess to the note of you mentioning the owner, Josh Harris, he did also say in there he's unbelievable, which I think was great. Him being like...
It almost makes it seem like it wasn't the first time that, even though he's only been the owner for a year or two, that that's happened before. So
it's like, oh, this guy, he's going to continue to try to pull one over on us. But... it's Howie being Howie. And, it's a great point to also bring up, or feels like a good time to bring up, the Eagles tampering situation, because we haven't spoken since the official, ruling came down. of the Eagles not being, I guess, found guilty of tampering. And we had initially discussed that, and I think there were a few individuals that maybe tried to call us out on Twitter saying, oh, I thought you guys thought there'd be a little bit of a punishment. But we were both in agreement, especially, Schefter's wording or the way that initially came out, and thinking, well, there might be a little bit of a punishment. Not a whole lot, but something in terms of a draft pick. But good news, the Eagles didn't have to give up anything. What were your main takeaways, though, just from that happening? Surprising maybe a little bit, but just overall takeaways of the Eagles not being found guilty of tampering.
I mean, I was just a little surprised simply because, like you said, I was going off of Adam Schefter's wording of his reports in the past, where he was saying that the Falcons were expected to receive a more severe punishment than the Eagles, which in my mind, I mean, I'm no English genius, but I feel like that means that the Eagles were going to be punished in some sort of way. So whether it was a late day 3 pick or financially or something, it seemed like there was going to be some sort of punishment. But obviously, the official announcement came out, and that wasn't the case, which is obviously great news. So, I mean, it always seemed like it was going to be tough for them to kind of figure it out because James Franklin isn't obviously directly tied to either party that was involved in negotiations, whereas Kirk Cousins literally said it himself out of his own mouth. So unless the Eagles were dumb enough to kind of use a phone that tied back to somebody or whatever and then caught that way, then that's obviously how they would have been caught. But clearly they did everything right and were able to get everything done and within the rules, I guess.
Great news again, yes, because I think that everybody, sigh of relief, like you say, it was something that was like, man, are we going to lose a draft pick, and how much would it be if they're going to take something? Not so much for Atlanta, again. Kirk Cousins saying it, a little harder to make the case or the argument, we didn't actually tamper, even though, Kirk and his presser just blatantly, it's like, oh yeah, talked with so-and-so, great meeting. Like, all right, well, we have to have a little bit of a slap on the hand. However, it was kind of surprising. They didn't even get a super drastic punishment. And I think I saw you tweet on this, but the whole NFL tampering, it's a strange situation to begin with, because everyone knows, that conversations are happening, whether they're being found out or not, but there's stuff that's going on because of how fast these deals get done. It's like, oh, Matt, are you kidding me? Like, in 15 minutes, you were able to negotiate a full-time contract and everything else. It's already done. That's great. Good for you. Chicago mainly has been the team the last couple seasons, I think. But
both former Eagles as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, both former Eagles, and it's immediate. So, but should tampering, even the legal tampering period, like, should it just be done away with, and why?
It just drives me crazy, because I feel like if they're going to be able to tamper, just let them tamper. I feel like they're having this legal period, this official period that just like makes things more confusing. It's like in the NBA draft where they kind of allow teams to trade like picks and players, but then you have that awkward moment where the guy has to go on the stage and wear the hat of the team that he's not even going to play for. It's like everybody knows these things are going to happen. Why not just allow them to make it official instead of driving people crazy on social media for 2 days? Because it seemed like a lot of this stuff, like Saquon Barkley and Kirk Cousins in particular, like it seemed like it was done during the negotiation period. And now they kind of want to figure out if it was legally signed, like with Kirk Cousins during the period. Like, it just seems like they're opening up like so much stuff that can happen in the future. I just feel like they need to just get rid of it. I mean, if they want to televise it all and make money off of it that way, however the NFL wants to do it. But it just seems like there's too much that they're going into now, because before it seemed like there was going to be a penalty if they negotiated or whatever during the legal tampering period. But now with this Falcons penalty, it just seems like they were kind of half in, half out, where it was okay because he signed it during a certain time. Like, it's just there's too much room for interpretation now, and I just feel like it would just be better to just get rid of the entire period as a whole.
It is. It's a total gray area, to your point. It's like, all right, there's not a consistent, here's the punishment if you do this. It's, maybe not. But to your point also, I've had the same thought, and I believe we've discussed this in the past, but it's like, legal tampering, like those two words don't feel like they should go together. It's tampering is the illegal part, but you're somehow legally tampering. It's I don't know, but for what it is, right, there seems like there would be a good money-making business for the NFL if they were just say, nope, we're done with it, make it a bigger deal, blow it up for a couple days, tracking all the tampering that's going on that's not tampering anymore. So something behind that. But it is interesting with the Falcons. Not only did they lose, in a sense, that situation. We've discussed previously with the draft and Michael Penix, and that was just a random weird scenario there. But also a leaked footage or clip from, I think, Chicago's behind the scenes was showing that Atlanta could have technically gotten a 4th-round pick if they had just allowed Chicago to trade up to 8 and get Rome Odunze there. And instead, they're like, we're good. We're going to go ahead and take our quarterback. So not only did they take a quarterback when they have Kirk Cousins, they turned down a 4th-round pick as well.
Well, maybe they thought like the Bears were that weird guy in your fantasy football league that just takes 2 quarterbacks in like the first 3 rounds for no reason, even though you can only start one. I mean, I don't know what their strategy was there. I feel like it just didn't make any sense. And the fact that it's now come out on video is only going to make them look worse, because before they could have been like, oh, it was just rumors or whatever. But now it's like, no, the proof is right there. So you kind of dropped the ball on that one, but we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe Michael Penix is going to be the greatest quarterback in NFL history, and we'll all look like morons. But I mean, to not even be able to just move back and basically take the free pick, it just seems silly.
Yeah. Because again, to your point, it's like crazier things have happened. I'll give you that. Yes. I don't know of a lot of crazier things, so that's just maybe me putting that out there. But it's like, if a different team had been calling, I'm just going to throw a name in, if Denver had been calling, then sure, you say no. Like, no, thank you, because you might come up here and get the quarterback that we want. But they literally just took Caleb Williams. They're not going to take Michael Penix at that point. Like, Chicago is the safest team possible. Accept it immediately, because there's no ramifications for it. It's literally, hey, we're going to trade you. We'll give you the 4th-round pick. Get this deal done. Like, now we're good. We're just going to go ahead and take him right now. Like, it's ridiculous. So, again, if Michael Penix ends up winning Super Bowls, whatever, all's well that ends well. So it's very strange, to say the least. Sticking with Falcons, or I guess former Falcons, though, Calais Campbell signed a deal with Miami. So that's a name that a decent amount of Philly fans have seen kind of some speculation or being linked to the Eagles, and maybe some help on the defensive line, whatever the case may be there. Off the table, veterans going to Miami. So curious, because, there's lots of potential already within the defensive line, but I've seen different mentions of, do you need someone who maybe not as much like an edge, but do you need someone for that nose tackle? And you brought up an interesting point, I believe also earlier this week, but any potential, or I guess who's the best target if you see someone being added on the D-line, or, just a name to keep an eye on?
Well, I tweeted about him. Brian Monet, former Seahawks player that kind of spent his entire career. He was drafted by them in 2019. Now, Clint Hurt was there every year that he was there in Seattle, so obviously there's some familiarity there. But he's a nose tackle as well, which is, I feel like, one of the big questions on the Eagles right now, because behind Jordan Davis, you don't really have that kind of true nose tackle that you can rely on. I mean, granted, it seems like Vic Fangio is probably going to play him a ton of snaps anyway, but we'll see if he's able to handle that kind of workload. But I feel like it would be nice to have that kind of insurance behind him, because I feel like guys like Moro Ajomo are a little bit smaller. Milton Williams and Jalen Carter are going to be more on the outside. And then, I mean, Gabe Cole, your boy, he's not really a nose tackle despite his height. But so, I mean, I feel like Brian Monet, the only issue is the reason probably he's still out there is he tore his ACL late in the season in 2022 and didn't play at all last year. So, I mean, who knows if he's physically ready to play. But as soon as he is healthy, I feel like the Eagles it will be smart for the Eagles to at least give him a shot.
It's a good connection too, and I'm glad every time that you bring up Gabe Hall and mention him as one of my guys.
I gotta try and get him in there once an episode. I gotta try and throw him in there.
It's the requirement. His name has to be said at least once. So I appreciate that. I am interested to see how he performs at training camp. There's another guy too that a lot of individuals have brought up, and understandably so, because he's kind of lost in the shuffle. Fletcher Cox, getting lots of other guys ahead of him and getting snaps. But Milton Williams, we've brought up his name in the past. He's one that needs to perform. It's time to show up. If the Eagles and Howie Roseman had a ton of faith, I mean, let's be honest, a deal probably would have already been struck. You would have tried to get this thing done, make an extension happen. Granted, there's unknowns on both sides. Have the Eagles seen enough for Milton Williams? Has Milton Williams gotten a chance enough to test his full value? He may think, look, I'm much better if you were even having contract negotiations. So on both sides, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, granted, he's, depending on how Fangio is going to align his defense, might be a starter of sorts. If it's the 5 front, or he might be the first rotational guy on the inside. But either way, he's going to get more snaps than we saw last season. So what are your expectations, though? Milton Williams, obviously all the athleticism. How well do you think that he could fit in this Fangio defense, and I guess overall expectations?
I mean, I feel like I've been higher on Milton Williams than most people for the last couple of years. I feel like he's a player that Eagles fans in general have kind of been clamoring for to play more snaps, because it seems like every time he is on the field, he's either getting like a tackle for loss or rushing the quarterback or doing something. So it's just going to be exciting to see him get a bigger opportunity. And I feel like although the Eagles should probably try and sign him to an extension before the season, like you said, it's probably not going to happen given at this point of the offseason. But stranger things have happened, so you never know. But I just feel like if I was his agent, I would see that 2 of those defensive tackles that played for Fangio in Miami last season received pretty big paydays this offseason in free agency. So, I mean, Milton Williams is still young. He still really hasn't played his best football, so I feel like he can kind of take advantage of probably a much bigger workload in 2024 and then see what happens in free agency in 2025.
I do have high expectations. I'll say that too. I'm with you on that. It's like there is a lot of potential, and especially within a Fangio scheme, like you're talking about as well, with Miami and guys that he's proven in the past to kind of get to that next level. If they haven't had that breakthrough or haven't been able to fully maximize their ability, maybe you see it this year. So keep an eye on Milton Williams, potential maybe breakout candidate. But you also brought up, the whole contract situation, like we mentioned as well. Speaking of contract situation, now thankfully this is maybe not a Philly issue at this point, but Haason Reddick, it was a strange, disappointing departure, I suppose. Like whenever he was let go naturally, myself, lots of I guess maybe not all, but the vast majority of Eagles fans were disappointed, and understandably so, because he's your proven pass rusher, the closer, getting sacks in big moments. Outside of, yes, the collapse, I mean, no one was doing anything. But for the most part, was going to show up in big moments. And so for him to have left the Jets, and then also the trade that Howie got, it was like, hang on, wait, we're not even – because initially it was like, well, it better be a first-round pick, or at the worst be a second-round pick. And then it's like, wait, what? It's a couple years back, and you're trading. So all these weird things, right? And then we get these reports of – well, Haason's not showing up to Jets minicamp, and he's still holding out. He's trying to get this contract done. It's really strange because you'd assume if you're the Jets, or outside looking in, they would have gotten this thing figured out, knowing you're trading for a player who was wanting a contract already, yet that didn't happen. So I don't know. Does it look – I guess it looks better, but how does it feel for like a Philly perspective, Howie – winning the trade, and also maybe the importance of things are not always what they seem when we're initially getting those contract negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird situation because if you look back at, say, like when the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown, another player that was a top player at his position, he was frustrated that his former team didn't want to pay him a deal, but then as soon as he was traded to the Eagles, almost immediately he signed a massive extension with them. And now you haven't seen that with Haason Reddick and the Jets, which is frustrating to fans. I know because I'm in New York, I hear from my coworkers and friends that I know that are Jets fans that it's just like now they're dealing with this on top of Aaron Rodgers not being there for the mandatory minicamp and all this other nonsense that's going on. It's just like it seems like there's always something going on with them off the field, and it's just like they have enough to worry about on the field, and now they have to deal with this stuff off the field. And I feel like Reddick kind of said all the right things at first with his press conference, and according to reports, it seems like they were kind of him and Joe Douglas were kind of on the same page in terms of heading into this final season, kind of playing it out, and then if he plays well, then he'll earn a contract. But clearly, Reddick either changed his mind or somebody went back on their word because now it's not looking good because it seems like he's frustrated and not being there for basically the entire offseason so far is going to be tough.
I saw someone make the comment of Reddick woke up. That's what happened. He just woke up and be like, okay, hang on, I'm not actually doing this. But to your point, it's like, yeah, there was they all seem to be saying the right things until it comes time to, here's OTAs, here's a mandatory minicamp, which he's fine being fined or missing out on the $250,000 workout bonus and all these other parts of the contract because, again, if he's looking at a $25 million a year type of extension or something to that effect, then, all right, I'm going to sit out. No need to risk getting injured or just going out there putting extra effort in, which I wouldn't expect, or I wouldn't doubt the fact that he's put in the time, work, and effort and all that other stuff. But it is, to your point, so much disconnect of hearing and seeing about Jets minicamp, especially whenever Salah's saying, like, we're on the same page, yet there's also comments like, who knows where Aaron Rodgers is? It's an unexcused absence. And it's like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah, it's tough. And it seems like Salah's trying to say the right things, but at the same time, he's kind of giving the media all the right things that they want to hear to just write all these stories. It's just tough. But this also kind of helps the case of it kind of hurts the case because there were a lot of fans when the compensation for Reddick came out originally that they were like, why didn't the Eagles just keep him on that final year and then let him play it out? But clearly now we see that was never an option because even if Reddick said he was going to play it out, that wasn't going to happen because now that we see what he's doing in New York. So, I mean, no matter what the Eagles got at this point, it seems like it was a win for them.
Yeah, you're right. Because you got the Bryce Huff, you got the draft pick, which conditional too. I mean, who knows how many snaps Reddick plays and to what level he performs there. But there's a potential chance, maybe a slight one, for that draft pick to get better. But either way, you at least got something out of it, and then move on from there, which I would assume and imagine that, Howie Roseman knew what he was doing based on what we were talking about previously, that he's been a mastermind at a lot of deals. Not that he hasn't missed on some, but seeing this now, hindsight being 2020, it feels a little bit better. And the same thing could be said about Kelee Ringo. I know it's only 1 year, but still, 1 year removed from that, his progression has been really good. And surprisingly, the reports from minicamp were that, he's one of the absolute standouts at corner. Now, you and I can remember, I think maybe the first time or second time that we actually recorded was like, hey, Kelee Ringo, let's keep an eye out on him. And then he started the next game in Dallas, and it was like, hey, hang on, or he got some reps against Dallas, and it was like, hang on, this guy maybe he's going to start actually playing because we'd hardly seen him at all. And so it was like, okay, and then, obviously the ebbs and flow up and down and things like that. But from all reports, small sample size, not in pads, everyone understands that, but from all reports, Kelee Ringo has a legit chance to possibly start, which is pretty shocking, I would say. But overall takeaways from Kelee Ringo's progression and what he's been doing.
I feel like during last season when he was playing, I was one of his biggest defenders, because I feel like after that kind of rough performance, I guess you can say, against the Cowboys, where he allowed a touchdown or whatever it was, people were like, oh my God, he's a bust, he's terrible, he should never play cornerback again. But I mentioned it this year again, he would have been, I think, the third or fourth youngest cornerback in this entire draft class, and that's a whole year later after having a full season of the experience. So, the fact that he's kind of had that year to learn and go against guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in practice and training camp, and now kind of parlay that with his play in those couple games down the stretch last season, I feel like he played pretty well. The defense as a whole didn't look good, but he was obviously one of the lone bright spots. Him and Nolan Smith, I feel like, kind of showed a little flashes down the stretch, and now they're building on it, because it seems like Kelee Ringo, like you said, is in the for real running for that starting spot opposite of Darius Slay. People might get upset that it's not Quinyon Mitchell or Cooper DeJean, but they're sleeping on Kelee Ringo because, like I said, he's so young and he's got great size, great speed. I feel like he has all the characteristics you want in an outside cornerback in today's NFL, and it just speaks to how well of a job Roseman has done in terms of reinventing that cornerback room over the past couple of years.
It's crazy. Again, I know we say it a ton, but just the depth in that secondary, not even to mention Isaiah Rodgers, wherever he falls, but 6'2", 210 for Kelee Ringo, 4'3", 640. I think that there was a lot of the athlete profile, that's what the Eagles go with, that's what Howie Roseman goes with, but to have him kind of seemingly taking that next step, who knows? We'll see where it leads, but A.J. Brown has even said, as we've mentioned a couple different times, but he sees Kelee Ringo as all-pro potential, and if you're giving A.J. Brown even just minor fits in practice, that's enough for me. I don't know what you want, because A.J. Brown is next level. Before we get to him real quick, I did want to bring up, and I didn't ask before this or kind of mention it, but staying with the defense, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, kind of maybe in a way, not necessarily fully, but kind of in a way taking Cooper DeJean, some of the younger guys under his wing. There was a cool photo that got posted of him with Cooper DeJean and Kelee Ringo, and he quoted or kind of said coming to a city near you on his Instagram, which is cool. Just see the passion, the different level of energy that he brings, and kind of that leadership, that new voice. But it's also interesting because Christian Parker, the defensive back coach, said, hey, even though probably starting out at safety, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, we also see the versatility that he has, and so we understand he can play different positions. He can play in the nickel. He can move around in the secondary, and so you talk about this. I think that the words that Christian Parker used were the illusion of complexity for the defense, and all this change, this versatility with Fangio. How do you feel like C.J. Gardner-Johnson fits in with this defense, and do you feel like it could be, I guess, more of a hybrid safety and slot, or is he going to be kind of just traditional safety in your mind? Where do you see him kind of fitting in within that defense?
I feel like ideally you kind of want him to just stick with one spot, and I feel like Fangio has kind of mentioned that as well, but he does have that versatility where when Avonte Maddox went down the year that he was here, he kind of stepped down into that nickel spot and played well. So, but also it helps because in Fangio's defense, he kind of wants to show that too high look pre-snap and then play off that after the snap. So now if you can kind of have C.J. Gardner-Johnson there pre-snap, and then all of a sudden now he's stepping down into the nickel after the snap and kind of throwing people off, picking up a slot receiver, picking up a tight end or whatever the case is there. I just feel like that versatility only helps because now if you have an injury at the nickel, then he could step in there or Cooper DeJean can step in there and they can kind of swap back and forth after the snap and throw things off for the defense. It just ends up giving them so many more opportunities. And like you said, his character and his personality can't be denied either, because that's kind of what they were missing last year. It felt like the defense, we said it, I feel like every episode that we recorded, that the Eagles didn't have an identity. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like bringing him in, I feel like he's going to talk trash. He's gonna bark and kind of be like what Jalen Mills was back in the day, where, I mean, you kind of have to have that guy that's going to talk trash and throw the offense off, because otherwise, if you just have the 49ers running through your warm-ups while you're trying to backpedal, it's like a slap in the face, and it makes you look bad. So I feel like now they kind of have the personnel. They kind of got a little bit more attitude. Devin White's another guy that's kind of feisty and likes to talk as well. So I feel like you can never have enough of those guys, as long as they're kind of controlled while they're doing it and not getting penalties and things like that. But we just saw how much he meant for the Eagles just a year ago or two ago. So now to have him back for a couple more years is going to be huge for them.
It's a great point. I totally agree. Also, you mentioning kind of that versatility, but being able to fill in if Avonte Maddox were to get injured, if you were to move him to the nickel or just having extra guys, obviously Cooper DeJean, we can go on and on and on with secondary, which is great. And also it kind of works both ways, because Avonte Maddox, as we've noted a couple different times, has been getting several reps at safety. So, again, we hope that no one gets injured, but in reality, we all realize that there's going to be a couple injuries that happen. And so having guys that can fill in at different roles, it might be in that scenario. If CJ Gardner-Johnson gets injured, maybe Avonte Maddox moves back to safety, but it's a good problem to have, certainly a luxury with all the depth. Still, on the other side, I mentioned A.J. Brown, kind of getting to him. It's insane to think that the Eagles, their best or arguably best player is getting better or is on the next level, but him talking about wanting to be or getting into the best shape of his life, I know that's a common theme from a lot of people this time of year, but the article or the report coming out from Tim McManus of ESPN saying that, like, as soon as the playoff game ended, when they lost, A.J. Brown was very quickly headed down to get workouts in with his trainer to basically say, like, look, I want to go to the next level. My goals were to win a Super Bowl, yes, but to win Offensive Player of the Year, to be dominant, to be first team All-Pro, all these other things that didn't happen. And it's almost like rededicating himself. It's just crazy because the numbers, off the charts. He's faster now than he was whenever he was drafted. He's jumping higher than he was. His body fat's 7%. Is it possible that he is getting better, I guess, but then also, like, what exactly does that mean? Like, how high can he go? Like, what's the actual potential for A.J. Brown? Because he's been phenomenal already.
I feel like everybody says that Justin Jefferson is, like, clearly the best receiver in the league, but I feel like A.J. Brown could potentially be in that argument too, because you've seen what he can do at times. He's just taking over games by himself, and I feel like now with a new offense where I feel like Kellen Moore is going to have a much better grasp of how to use him and Devontae Smith, and how to use them much more effectively and much more consistently as well. Because I feel like we've seen flashes where A.J. Brown would go a drive where he would have like 3 or 4 catches and look like he was going to dominate, and then he'd have like 1 catch for the rest of the game, and they would never go his way again. And I feel like now he's going to be put in different situations, going to be put in outside and in the slot and on the move a lot more. And I feel like that's just only going to help him go to the next level and be mentioned in that top 3 range where you got him, Tyreek Hill, and Justin Jefferson, whoever you want to put there. But I feel like there is no reason why he can't be the top receiver in the league, because like you said, he's in the best physical shape of his life. Granted, it seems like everybody is at this time of the year, but he really does look it, because you've seen the training, you've seen the boxing videos, you've seen him working on the field. He was there supporting guys during rookie minicamp, which he didn't have to do at all. So little things like that, it adds up. It seems like he really wants to take it to the next level, and guys that get paid what he gets paid after the extension and that have put up the numbers and the accolades that he have, they can kind of try to take a step back and kind of get complacent, but it seems like he's doing the complete opposite and just acting like he's on a rookie deal and trying to prove himself still.
It's honestly phenomenal. Like you say, yeah, the fact that he's, I don't know, he's getting paid, as you say, but he's not just resting on his laurels of being like, oh, yeah, we're good. It wouldn't have to actually be that leader or put in the extra time and effort and energy, but you can tell, like, he loves the game. He's passionate about it. He wants to be one of the best. He wants the team to win. So all incredible, phenomenal things. And it's what makes one of the, the good leaders. And speaking of Jason Kelce, I've at least got to mention it because there was a brief kind of rumor speculation. Not that this is necessarily as serious, but he was talking about on the New Heights podcast, if the Eagles, their minority stake being for sale, and he would very much consider that if that was a possibility of, the financial ramifications. But
I take full credit. I mentioned it last episode. I was like, what if Jason Kelce?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to mention, you did mention that of like, hey, it could be a possibility. Now, he's like, hey, quit the ESPN gig, right? I just be done with it because if I get a chance to own the Eagles, who cares about anything else? All bets are off. Thoughts on that, but also, like, what does it say? Because we had this whole speculation, right? Like, he can go try out, like, doing a little bit of play-by-play or color commentary. But, like, deep down, he's eventually going to come back to the Eagles organization in some capacity. It feels that way.
I mean, it just feels like eventually, like you said, he's going to be back either on the coaching staff or in the front office because we've seen guys like Connor Barrow and Matt Leo kind of step in and have roles. Darren Sproles was a scout or whatever. But it seems like if the Eagles are interested and they enjoyed their time with a player during their playing days, it seems like they find some sort of role for them. And I feel like a guy like Jason Kelce, it just seems like he's made roots in Philadelphia. He's not going anywhere. I feel like it's only a matter of time before he's involved in some capacity. But at the same time, him and his brother, once Travis Kelce retires as well, I feel like they both kind of built up enough equity off the field with their podcast and everything else that they can pretty much do whatever they want. They can be the next Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, having their own multicast of primetime games and stuff like that. So I just feel like I thought they were going to be on the Madden cover or something this year. Who knows? But it just seems like they've just dominated the headlines, and it's smart of him to kind of take a chance as an analyst because those guys are getting crazy contracts nowadays too. So if that's what he wants to try out now, then sure. But like you said, it's only a matter of time before he's involved in the Eagles in some capacity.
Or hey, depending on if this thing works out, get a loan from Taylor. That would help out. Let's just say that the financial.
She does have the bank account for that.
I feel like, hey, you want to buy the Eagle? She used to be. I don't know if she's anymore. Used to be an Eagles fan. They say so.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave. That's as much Taylor Swift talk as we get because
that's a whole nother can of worms.
And I know it's gonna go much further off topic. So we'll rein it back in. You actually mentioned the Madden cover. Did you see? I know you saw probably the Kelce one because you mentioned it, but the Big Dom Madden cover. Did you see that photo? Yes. That was pretty legit. So
that should be the special edition right there.
It's the Godfather edition. That's what they need to make it. It's like, oh my gosh, I would immediately buy that. It's funny. Congratulations, Christian McCaffrey won it. It might be. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. They've disproven the whole Madden curse for a little while, but. There's other options that they could have gone with, and I always enjoy seeing those whenever someone's like, "Oh, hey, here's this, option for you."
I feel like it's always nice to see a non-quarterback get it because I feel like that's just like the traditional way. It's always a quarterback. I feel like they said that he was the first running back to get it since like Peyton Hillis back in 2013 or whenever that was.
With the rigged voting.
It's been quite a while. So I mean, PFN actually did like a little article where they asked like all the staff who they thought it would be, and I thought it was going to be CJ Stroud. I felt like. It made a ton of sense with how much coverage and all the stuff he's been saying this offseason. Obviously, he's like one of the hottest players in the league, so it made sense. But I guess Christian McCaffrey makes sense too.
There you go. Yeah, go with the running back. That's interesting. It does feel – I didn't think about that, but then as you say that, forever since a running back's been on the cover. So, it does make sense there. We should also say, too, a congratulations to Merrill Reese, who – won I think it was the Pete Rozelle Award. Am I saying that? I don't know if the first name. Pete Rozelle, I believe. But congratulations to him. Totally well-deserved. But getting a call from the Hall of Fame, he said that he was in tears. I just love the passion and energy. Like, I think he's, 80, 81, 82, something. I mean, I hope that I'm that lively and also being like, oh, I want to keep doing this for the rest of my life. You're going to have to get a crane to take me out of here is what he said. So, it's got to be a blast to call the Eagles for a living, but still, it's like to be that age and be still that vibrant. It's like kudos to him. Very, very well deserved. Let's just say that.
I just feel like he's just such like an underappreciated guy. I feel like only like Philadelphia really talks about him and knows about him, but it's nice to see him kind of get the recognition that he deserves. And unfortunately, living in New York City, I don't really get to listen to him on the radio or on broadcast or whatever, but I get to kind of live through it on social media, so that helps. But it's just. Obviously, he has a ton of iconic calls, and he's an honor to listen to him throughout the years. And I feel like it's just nice to see him get his flowers.
Absolutely, yes. There's again, like you say, so many iconic calls. I think naturally for most people, the Super Bowl. He even said that's the most memorable. Which why wouldn't it be? But the Super Bowl call, the winning call, probably the most memorable. But it's fun nonetheless. There's still, I mean. With all of, and it's a great time to bring this up, but by the way, Anthony DiBona, Pro Football Network NFL analyst, for those that are unaware, but you wrote an article about the best Eagles of all time, and you think about, Reese has probably covered I don't know, just about, most every one of them. But there's a top 10 that you have. We won't get into all of them, but there's a link down below if you want to go check it out. But you've got, not to give everything away, but Jason Kelce at number 1. I think that's understandable for a lot of people. But Brian Dawkins, I would assume, for me, Brian Dawkins would automatically be number 2. I can understand, maybe not, but curious your thoughts through the first top 3 in that ranking.
All right, so Kelce was my number 1, as you mentioned. Then number 2, I have Reggie White. Number 3, I have Brian Dawkins. And I know fan base wise, people love Brian Dawkins. I love Brian Dawkins. I had his jersey growing up and whatever, but I just felt like with this list, I was kind of taking in like accolades, especially like Reggie White winning Defensive Player of the Year and all the All-Pro teams that he made. I just feel like he played long enough with the team as well, because that was another factor was like longevity, which is why a guy like LaShawn McCoy didn't make the list. And I know people might get upset about that, but it's just, I feel like, I factored all of those things in, like, so individual success, team success, accolades off the field, and awards and things like that. So I just feel like that kind of gave him the edge over Brian Dawkins, even though fans probably say that Dawkins is more of like a beloved player in Philadelphia, which is kind of why I gave Jason Kelce the top spot, because he's kind of the best of both worlds, where he has more All-Pros than any other center in NFL history. He won the only Super Bowl that they had, and obviously he spent his entire career in Philadelphia. And then all the stuff that he does off the field in terms of embracing the city and saying the right things and everything like that. So I feel like he was clearly the number 1 option for me. And then after that, I know people are going to debate, but I had a ton of fun doing it, and I appreciate anybody giving it a read.
Absolutely, yes. And again, I always love to look back. So you not only have that, but people can go check it out. You got the top quarterbacks, top receivers, running backs, I think as well.
This entire week coming up, there's more and more coming out that I've kind of had stored up that are going to be published almost every day. So, and then after that, the real fun begins with like the worst free agent signings in Eagles history, the worst draft picks, the worst trades.
We gotta remember those. Oh my gosh.
That's get all of the good stuff out of the way first, and then we'll talk about the bad.
Okay, good. I like it. All right. Just fair warning too for anyone that's curious. But by the way, again, got a link in the description. Go check it out. I would say, again, I would personally debate. I would put Brian Dawkins. Totally understand why you say that. I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that they're going to say, hey, Minister of Defense, like, totally makes sense. You make him at number 2. So everybody watching, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Top 10 best Eagles of all time. Go check out Anthony's article. Let us know as well. But Anthony, appreciate you joining as always. Have a happy Father's Day, depending on when you're watching this too, to those out there. Have a happy Father's Day weekend. Any plans for Father's Day? Any celebrating? Hopefully
none. I'm going to be seeing my dad, of course, and I don't know if my wife has anything planned for me, but just got a 3-day weekend off from both jobs, so I'm excited to enjoy some family time. And I just want to say Happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day to all the mothers that have to play that father role as well. And our work might not be always appreciated, but I appreciate all of you. So,
absolutely. Awesome. I love it. Well, I appreciate it. Alrighty, guys. We'll see y'all. Until next time, you know what it is. Go Birds.